Into tonight's program, guys. So we're about ready to turn things over to our partners over in
it up a notch.
Yes, we're going to turn it over to our partners across the pond, as you guys may know. At this point in the streams that we do on the weekends together, we always like to shift our focus. At one point, you know, we all have fun and games here, but I think it's time we settle down, we get serious, we apply some education to the program here, bring some fresh content, and you guys can actually walk away from the asylum service a little bit smarter than you have been. And it is our pleasure to bring this to you. So
yeah, because you know we always bring this stuff like Arma and Rocket League. It's a bunch of violence and bullets. But at this stream, we want you to have brains before bullets. So we're
absolutely, we're going to teach you a thing or two. So by doing so, though. It's kind of out of our hands. We kind of hold the goofy side down, but we got a couple of guys across the pond that bring the IQ to the stream. They bring the education to the stream. So I actually think we're just about ready to turn things over to them. What do you think?
Yeah, they're all good. They're set up and they're ready to go.
All right. Well, with that, guys, we will catch you in just a few minutes. And hopefully tonight's entries that they do live up to the hype. So without much further ado, Justin, let's get over there, man.
All right, man, we'll transfer the call now.
All right. See you guys in a minute.
Yes, hello.
Oh, give me just a moment here, cohort.
I thought you said you'd be ready by this time. The nice gentlemen have already switched it over to us.
Oh, cohort, I do apologize. I'm having a bastard time with this old tea again. It's gone cold. It's gone cold. I'm gonna have to get your Viddle.
You just warm it up.
I'm gonna have to get your Viddle to come in here and put it in the old QO microwave, I believe you Americans call it, of course. Yes, we're gonna have to get it over there, get it warmed up here in just a moment. But while I wait for my spot of tea to be at the correct temperature, I want to go ahead and welcome everybody here to tonight's 6th installment of the Urban Dictionary readings, of course, yes.
Yes, everybody welcome.
So
we've actually had a lot of good popularity on it, and, you know, we just wanted to bring it to you all.
Yes,
just
of course.
Another episode.
So tell me over there, cohorts, have you even learned a thing or two in these proper readings that we do?
Oh, absolutely, mainly the things that I have learned have been safety, precautions, and things of that nature.
Absolutely. So you speak of safety, of course. So maybe perhaps tonight we should lead off the program with a little bit of a public service announcement to the old chaps over here listening to us, don't you think?
Yes.
Oh, of course. So as you know, we did a previous installment of the Urban Dictionary with one PSA, a term called the old pencil sharpener, where we encourage the ladies of the world to remove their teeth from the equation of doing excellent fellatio. Fellatio cannot be excellent without the proper technique, and all proper techniques that can be taught across the West and East all require teeth to not be a part of the process. So as we do that, we're actually going to level the playing field, and we're going to give a little public service announcement to the male listeners of this program, of course. So it's not only the females that might lose their way. Us men are just as prone to our mistakes and misunderstandings of what women do enjoy in the old bedroom. What do you think, cohort?
Well, I completely agree.
Of course. So tonight's first entry is, of course, a word called the scratch pad, of course. Yes, the old scratch pad. So what is the scratch pad? And you may think of the old scratch pad as possibly something you would use to assist you with your dish cleaning, of course. That is the common place for the scratch pad. But but in the Urban Dictionary, it has quite a different situation, of course. So here we are, and we have a little bit of history here about the old scratch pad. The scratch pad, the original scratch pad as you know it, was invented in 1917 by a young gentleman named Ed Cox. He came westward of San Francisco, California, of course, and he was an aluminum pot salesman, cohort. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yes, of course. Of all the things that you would think that a man may invent something as useful as the everyday scratch pad, was an aluminum pot salesman, but he invented a little back in his day, he used, I believe, what was called steel wool, which is actually a very tough, durable cleaning agent that you can use to get out quite the old what's the term? The stains, the soap, the cooked on food, of course. Yes. So
for the Americans,
yes.
So all of them keep greasy foods and such, so they are the worst.
Yes, of course. So he introduced this scratch pad as a way to bring in new customers for his business. Cox made the soap an encrusted steel wool pad as a calling card. His wife, of course, Mrs. Cox, what's her name, of course, named the soap pad the SOS pad, which stands for Save All Saucepans, which is quite the clever slogan. Do you not agree?
Oh, I do agree. Mainly because it's a play on words with the SOS, tap, 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 dot, 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 tap, tap, tap. That's how you do that one, and it actually means send out signal. A lot of people say it means save all ship, but no, it's just send out signal, meaning they're hoping for rescue. And he was smart enough to bring that into his newfound idea for a product.
Yes, of course. So Save Our Saucepads was a scratch pad that he invented to possibly polish up his pans that he was hoping to sell, but unfortunately Cox soon found out that the SOS pads were actually a hotter product than any pots or pans that he had in his old inventory. So that was the establishment of the original SOS pad, of course. So how does it apply to the Urban Dictionary? How do we cross paths here? So now that you know the history of the proper pad, we are now going to expand your mind to the cutting edge of the English language of the scratch pad of the urban variety. And the scratch pad reads as follows. When a man shaves his pubic region a few days before bumping uglies with a lovely gal, of course, yes, after a few days the surface of the man's genitalia takes somewhat of a rough, stubbly-like texture that is prickly to the touch. So then you get a lovely gal that begins to ride the man in that fashion, of course. Yes, I believe it's called reverse cowgirl or something of the sort. And upon every thrust she feels the scratchy surface, thus simulating fucking a scratch pad, as used in a sentence as follows. The scratch pad I've been sporting has been giving my wife a rash, something fierce. So, do you have anything to add to that, cohort? Cohort, are you there?
Oh, yes, sorry, this confound microphone. It's too high-tech for me. I'm used to the old monotone ones. But it's crazy how he was able to keep humor inside of his business, saying, yes, 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 we all understand what it's like. Everybody gets a little rash from the old fornication.
Yes,
and,
of course.
Yes, it does resemble.
So, gentlemen, this is a message to you. Do not shave your pubic region, and if you do, make sure to have intercourse with your loved one fairly quickly after the fresh shave, because if you do wait a day or two, you might end up giving your loved one quite the rash as she ends up grinding her vaginal canal against your old rough surface there, your own personal scratch pad as they call it. So do make sure to stay properly clean and hygienic, and don't let your wife be a victim of the old scratch pad.
Yes, at least just trim it down or something. You don't have to shave it all the way. It's not
absolutely
necessary.
And it causes mass chaos in the bedroom, lots of pain, and of course our lovely birds don't need that, of course, yes. So with that entry complete, I believe it's time that we move on to possibly our final entry of the night. And are you ready for your final entry here, cohort?
Yes, I am.
So just for your visual reference here, so we educate you completely. The original scratch pad, before we move on, something of that nature there, in the old steel wool layer on top of a classic sponge there. You can use that to get the old grease off the pan, perhaps cooked on food on the old baking pan. Just use it as a proper way. Don't make your pubical regions an equivalent of this, because nobody would like grinding their ugly against something like that, which could cause a catastrophe, and someone might end up in the old hospital if they're not careful. So that's our final entry there. So as we move on here, we're going to move on to our final entry tonight. Tonight's final entry, of course, is called The Big Montana. And I'm actually...
Are you talking about the lovely Arby's sandwich?
No, I'm actually not talking about the old Arby's sandwich, but
Oh.
it does have something to do with the old Arby's sandwich.
Well,
It is
I can't
related.
wait.
It's a distant cousin with the same name. So, of course, tonight, the Big Montana is, of course, as you know, a delicious sandwich from your local restaurant establishment called Arby's, which I believe is quite popular out west in the old America, of course.
Yes, I've actually been there myself.
So
it's
of
quite a
course,
good time.
if you're ever traveling about and you find yourself in that lovely Yankee country, make sure to swing by the old Arby's establishment, grab yourself a Big Montana, and have a lovely dinner. But anyway, tonight's Big Montana, of course, is not the sandwich. It is the urban slang term that we will explain. So here we are. So the originality, we must dive into the history of the Big Montana. How did it become a
Yes,
thing?
let's go into the depths.
So of course, back in the 1800s, we all knew of an expedition of sorts that's quite a part of American history, and it's called the Louisiana Purchase. And the Louisiana Purchase was essentially the United States purchased everything to the west of the Mississippi River, which is quite a chunk of land, of course. So they purchased this from the French government at the time, and we did not know what the fuck was out there. So we sent out an expedition, two men named Lewis and Clark, the famous trail, the land, the exploring nature of the American spirit began with Lewis and Clark as they traveled west of the old Mississippi River, learning the lands and all the plains and mountains that lied west out there, and they met a little bird along the way, a Native American woman named Sacagawea, of course. Yes. Are you familiar with Sacagawea, cohort?
Yes, I am. She seemed to be the founding reason why America is what it's at today.
Absolutely, she played a huge role in the process. So of course, let's do a little bit of explaining here of Sacagawea's her contribution. So she was a Lemhi Shoshone woman, of course, which was a certain tribe of the Native American that,
Of course.
she helped the Lewis and Clark expedition achieve each of its charted missions objectives, exploring the Louisiana Purchase. With the expedition between 1804 and 1806, she traveled thousands of miles from North Dakota to the Pacific Ocean, of course. So she established cultural contacts with Native American populations, researched natural history with them. So, of course, this was she was very influential, of course, but unfortunately for Sacagawea, she was the only woman within stone's throw of all of these men, of course. So there was a lot of fornication, a lot of flirting, lots and lots of bumping uglies going together here. So Sacagawea...
Let's be honest here. Let's
Yes.
not make it sound nice. Raw, hard pounding is what happened.
Yes, Mr. Lewis and Clark had quite the sexual appetite, it appears. So Sacagawea became their catalyst for sexual adventure. So unfortunately, 2 years with lots and lots of men ended up putting Sacagawea in quite a pickle, with lots of pickles going in and out of her, if you get my drift, of course. Yes.
Say no more, say
Little
no more.
gentleman's joke there, of course, just to spice it up. But anyway, Sacagawea, eventually her female parts took on a little bit of an abused, rough look by the end of it, and Lewis and Clark, of course, when they returned her to North Dakota, they of course traveled through the land that would eventually become known as Montana. So when they returned her home, and after all of the bumping of uglies had finished for the whole expedition, they nicknamed her Big Montana, which eventually led to the naming of the state next to the Dakotas called Montana. So Sacagawea, of course, not only has a proper place in American history, but she has a proper place in Urban Dictionary history, which is even more special, if you ask me, of course. What do you think, cohort?
Yes, I actually want to nominate her at some point to be the first lady gentleman.
Yes, of course. So here's a little image for your viewing reference of Lewis and Clark hanging out with old Sacagawea. So as you can see, they were quite the threesome and team going upon this amazing expedition throughout the west part of the America continent at the time. But of course, they were quite the threesome and team behind the old tent cloth, don't you think, cohort?
Yes, Sacagawea being very good.
Yes,
with the sack,
so for your viewing reference now, for those of you with weak stomachs, you may want to turn away. This isn't going to be too bad, but perhaps the visual reference here might be a little bit too much for you to handle, but if you want a rough idea of what the old Sacagawea, what her female private parts may have looked like, it might look a little something like this. And of course we have tilted the photo to try and represent what the old beef curtains or bone flaps as you call them might look like after a 2-year expedition with 2 very sexually active men. Do you have anything to add with this visual reference that has been tilted for the viewing pleasure of our audience, cohort?
Oh my god, that is disgusting. I mean, look at that.
Oh, the beef
flappy, that's what she looked like afterwards. Oh
Absolutely.
my god, that poor woman.
Absolutely. I believe that I could cover an entire front window with all these beef curtains, of course, yes?
Yes, if she's in a rather rowdy state, she could actually be used to wash your car.
Yes, absolutely. So here we are. We're going to now move on to the proper term, the proper reading of the old Big Montana, straight from the source. The Urban Dictionary reading will now proceed as follows. So the Big Montana is when a female's vagina has large meaty flaps, usually in a roast beef kind of color. You can also reference the term beef curtains or bone flaps, similar to this. It's relevant to a large fast food chain sandwich known as the Big Montana, which we covered. So as used in a sentence, yo, I was with this girl last night. She had a double serving of the old Big Montana, which isn't exactly a positive, if you know what I mean, cohort. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, of course. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that we have spiced your minds with the history of Sacagawea and her permanent influence into the Big Montana.
More like Sacagawenas.
Oh, yes. Excellent joke, cohort. Ow. That one makes me tip my hat to you, of course, as I have nothing but the utmost respect for your sharpness and clever ideas. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to bring an end and close this edition of Readings from Urban Dictionary. We hope to see you very, very soon. And always, make sure, take the scratch pad, throw it away. Your bird deserves better than to get a rash, of course, cohort?
Of course.
Yes, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. Cohort, do you have any final words?
I just bid you all farewell.
Yes, we shall bid you all a very good farewell, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Hello.
Well,
Beef fucking Montana.
the Big Montana, I think is what it was called. The Big Montana.
The Big Montana.
The Big Montana.
Yeah.
So,
Sacagawea got around.
Sacagawea was a full-service assistant, apparently.